I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Over the past few days, Republican candidate for president Chris Christie, former governor of New Jersey, has just been on a tear exposing Donald Trump. Look, I disagree with Chris Christie on a ton of things. I think he aided and abetted the rise of Donald Trump, but I do want to highlight, at least right now, he is speaking the truth, and he's the only Republican presidential candidate who's actually doing it. So let's take a look at Chris Christie's surgical takedown of Donald Trump. And all of these points make so much sense. Here's what Chris Christie says first. He goes on MSNBC and says that he considers Trump a danger to this country because Trump is detached from reality. Play this clip.
Do you think he's a danger to the country?
Well, I don't want him to be president. So, yeah, I mean, the fact is that he's a guy who has shown over the course of time, and even more particularly, I'd say, Mike, in his post-presidency, that he is detached from reality in this respect. He continues to say, and he said this the other day in response to a question when Brett Baer asked him, how are you going to win back the suburban women voters that you lost in 2020 to Joe Biden? And he said, first off, I didn't lose in 2020. So we don't need a candidate as Republicans who's going to continue to look backwards and try to refight the 2020 election. He's even in the race he won in 2016, he's trying to refight the Nevada election. And imagine saying in that interview yesterday in Nevada, he called it a disgraceful state. Well, that's an interesting approach to trying to win their electoral votes. By the way, you people are disgraceful. Vote for me, please. I mean, this guy is only about him. Only about him.
Then on Fox, Chris Christie says about Donald Trump, this is not someone who's fighting for our country. It's all about his ego. Play the clip.
Here's why he doesn't care about the American people. He droned on for an hour and a half yesterday in Iowa. He lied about the farm deal with the Chinese. They haven't even complied with a quarter of what they agreed to Donald Trump to do in terms of buying soybeans and other things from the farmers in Iowa. And he spent the rest of the time talking about his own indictment. This is not somebody who's fighting for the American people and their future. This is all about his ego. What he cares about the most is trying to undo the loss he had to Joe Biden in 2020. But since he's a three-time loser, having lost in 2018 the House of Representatives, lost the White House and the Senate in 2020, and in 2022, he wound up losing two more governorships, another seat in the Senate, and we barely won the House by 5 votes when, in fact, you had a president whose popularity was at 35%. So he's in this for himself and himself only, and not in it for the American people. And over the course of the time, Republican primary voters are going to see that too. If we want to lose to Joe Biden again and have an 82-year-old Joe Biden in the White House, then let's nominate Donald Trump.
Here is Chris Christie on CNN responding to Donald Trump calling special counsel Jack Smith a crackhead. And Chris Christie says, look, this is why Donald Trump is an unacceptable candidate. He says things like this that are completely devoid of reality. And when you're talking about a position like, I don't know, the United States president, maybe we should have some standards. Here, play this clip.
Mr. Trump is now calling special counsel Jack Smith a, quote, deranged man who, quote, looks like a crackhead. Beyond the propriety of that, from a legal point of view, do statements like that affect the case?
No, I mean, not really. I think, the only argument you could make is that it potentially affects a jury pool who's in South Florida reading this stuff and thinking, what the hell is he talking about? I did a lot of drug cases when I was U.S. attorney in New Jersey. I can guarantee people that there isn't one particular type of crackhead. There's not anyone who looks like a crackhead necessarily. Look, this is just what makes Donald Trump an unacceptable nominee for our party, because he says things like this without any regard for truth or falsity, without any regard for the propriety of it. But even worse yet, what does that do to help anyone other than him? My argument all along has been this race in 2024 for Donald Trump is all about Donald Trump. It's not about the American people. He doesn't give a damn about the American people.
And here Chris Christie explains that when Donald Trump continues to lie and says that, oh, he's going to end Russia's unlawful invasion of Ukraine in 24 hours, that what Donald Trump really means is he's going to turn over most of Ukraine, if not all of it, to Vladimir Putin. Here, play this clip.
Yesterday in Iowa, telling people that he would solve the war between Russia and Ukraine in 24 hours. The only way he could do that is do what he normally does, which is bend down to Vladimir Putin and get him whatever he wants.
And look, Chris Christie, the only person in the Republican primary saying this. And, you know, the large media networks aren't really even talking about this. I mean, the reason that we cover what Donald Trump says every single day is, what Chris Christie's saying should not just be a sideshow in the Republican Party primary. Fundamentally, what media networks need to be talking about is how unfit, how unqualified, how dangerous, how fascist Donald Trump is, how not normal this behavior is. You know, every time Donald Trump gives these traveling fascist circus events that he calls rallies in these different, small towns at this point, the media allows him to lie about the crowd size, to say there are more people there. And then when you look at what the media writes, they go, Donald Trump made a triumphant return to name the small town, where he delivered an impassioned speech to a crowd of people who were lined up and they were chanting his name over and over again as he said, quote, "We are going to return America to its former greatness," end quote. It's like, you want to talk about the time where he lies about the 2020 election over and over again, or the fact that all he's talking about is attacking this prosecutor and this judge and how everything's unfair to him and unfair this or unfair that, or the fact that like almost every day he's posting QAnon memes at this point, which is a freaking death cult? Can we talk about the fact that Donald Trump talks about, and this is his goal, removing the United States from NATO, that Donald Trump can't get through a speech where he doesn't praise Vladimir Putin or President Xi? Can we talk about just the reality of the situation? But no, I know the media networks want to talk about the fact that President Biden was seen outside not wearing socks. Oh my God, he wasn't wearing socks. Or what? There was an expose that President Biden gets upset when people show up at meetings and they are unprepared, and occasionally, get this, in private at meetings where President Biden gets upset, he curses occasionally. That was the big expose of this week. What are you talking about? And the large media networks just allow, it's not just Trump that you see in the video. What Chris Christie's talking about, though, you could say the same thing about Kevin McCarthy and Jim Jordan and James Comer and all of the MAGA Republicans who are in Congress, which is essentially all of them right now. This is not normal behavior, and it is so critical and vital that we call it for what it is. It's not conservative speech. It is fascist speech. It is deranged speech. It is idiocracy speech, and it is unacceptable here in our democracy. We're going to keep calling it out each and every day on the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe. We're on our way to 1.5 million subscribers. Thanks to your support. Check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Wherever you get audio podcasts, subscribe to the MeidasTouch Show. Subscribe to the MeidasTouch podcast. Hit subscribe on YouTube. Have an excellent day.
Hey Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram at MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.